Daniel Ricciardo says he's curious to see how well he does on the Red Bull simulator when he rejoins the team after leaving for 4 years. After leaving McLaren, the Australian will become a reserve driver for the Milton Keynes-based team in 2023. Before that, he didn't have a spot on the grid. Zach Brown, the boss of McLaren, says it was challenging to be judged on the team's decision to stop working with Daniel Ricciardo. First, why Brown found reaction to Ricciardo's McLaren exit frustrating. Since he joined the team in 2021, Ricciardo had a hard time. In the summer of 2022, it was confirmed that he and the team had both agreed to end their multi-year contract early. This meant that the Australian couldn't race in 2023, so McLaren brought in a rookie named Oscar Piastri to replace him and race with Lando Norris. Brown says that Ricciardo's leaving the team was just one part of a hard year for the team as a whole. Brown told McLaren in an interview, "It's been a very tough year. It's also personal because business is personal, especially Daniel, who has been great to work with and gave us our first win at the 2021 Italian Grand Prix. We had a lot of fun together, but we were also very upset that it didn't work." Ricciardo's departure has gotten a lot of attention from outside the sport, and Brown says that this can be hard to deal with at times. "I think the challenging part is being judged by people that aren't really close to it," he said. "Everyone has their own thoughts, which is fine. That's sport. I don't think you can be in sports if you don't have a thick skin, because the fans in the stands or the media will have their own opinions. You just need to have your feet. I know how things really went down. I know what kind of relationship I have with Daniel and his management, how open it is, and how well we work together. As long as the people close to us know what really happened, I think we should just go with the flow." Next, Ricciardo says trying to solve McLaren problems actually made them worse. Daniel Ricciardo thinks that trying to fix the problems that bothered him during his 2-year stay at McLaren Formula One made them worse. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo both joined the team in 2021. Although Ricciardo won the Italian Grand Prix that year, Lando Norris was by far the better driver during their time together. The Australian's contract was cancelled early in the summer of 2022 because the team didn't think it needed him for a possible third year in 2023. Oscar Piastri, a new player, has taken his place. In 2023, Ricciardo is going to take a year off from Formula One, so he's returned to Red Bull as a third and reserve driver, 4 years after leaving the team for Renault. But he thinks that the more he and McLaren tried to help him solve his problems, the worse things may have gotten. "I look back at my very first race with McLaren. I out-qualified Lando in Bahrain 2021. Ricciardo said on the F1 Beyond the Grid podcast, "I didn't know much about driving at the time, so I'm not sure if I just got lost along the way. Did I then try to start too hard? Did we try to engineer it too hard and get away from my strengths and drive the car in a certain way? Maybe that's one of my flaws and something I just couldn't understand. It's an interesting one, but in the end, I'll just have to accept that. At least from my side, we struggled on both ends as the team tried to figure out what was going wrong and how to fix it. But I'm not perfect, and this car shows me some of my flaws. It's something for me to work on, but obviously I didn't find a way to gel with this car often enough," he said. Moving on, Horner outlines Red Bull plans for Ricciardo. Christian Horner has said more about what Daniel Ricciardo will do at Red Bull in 2023. Ricciardo was left without a spot on the grid after he and McLaren decided to end his multi-year contract early. This meant that he left the team at the end of the 2022 season after a hard 2 years. After the season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, it was announced that Ricciardo would return to Red Bull as a backup driver, 4 years after he left the team. Horner hopes that Ricciardo's new job will help him get excited about sports again. Horner told the Australian news site called Speed Cafe, "We were surprised to see Daniel be out on the open market. Since he had grown up with Red Bull and been cared for by the company since he was a kid, it made sense for us to bring him back. A driver who has so much experience and is so well known, we hope that Daniel will rediscover his love for Formula One during this process." Ricciardo has said that he wants to race again in 2024, but Horner says that there are no plans for that at Red Bull right now. "We certainly have no plans to utilize him other than that third driver role, combined with the commercial activities that he'll be performing," Horner said. What Ricciardo's Red Bull role will involve. Horner has provided additional information regarding the responsibilities that will fall on the shoulders of Ricciardo. The leader of the team stated, "Daniel will be attending some races where obviously he'll be our reserve driver for those events. It's likely that he'll assist us in testing a few tires as part of the Pirelli program, which is utilized by all of the teams. In the simulator, he'll be required to perform certain tasks. Therefore, he'll be responsible for all of those things, and in addition to that, he'll see to the business requirements of our many sponsors and partners." Daniel maintains a significant amount of his presence in the United States, which is now his primary location. Because there will be 3 Grands Prix held there in 2019, he'll have a packed schedule to compete in all of them. When asked if Ricciardo could assist in the growth of the Red Bull powertrains department, Horner responded with a positive answer. "The group has the intention of producing their own engines beginning in 2026. There's still a long way to go in terms of powertrains because it'll be at least 3 years before we see a power unit manufactured by Red Bull installed in the trunk of a car. He probably doesn't have much more to say about that topic right now. However, it is an intriguing project, and the year 2026 is not all that distant. Next up, Ricciardo reveals element of Red Bull return he's curious about. Even though Ricciardo has had a hard time in the last 2 years, he used to do well at Red Bull and won 7 of his 8 races there before leaving at the end of 2018. During qualifying, he was able to get within a tenth of a second of Max Verstappen, so Ricciardo would want to use the simulator to see how he stacks up against his past performance. Ricciardo told the Beyond the Grid podcast, "Going back to Red Bull, I think there is, of course, an element of me which is curious in terms of just jumping on the sim and seeing how I do, even just for myself. It's a car that's changed a lot in the last 4 years, but it's also a car that I was very familiar with and did well with. I'm interested to see if it just brings it all back and makes me think, oh yeah, this makes sense. Here I am." Ricciardo thinks that this could help his confidence in the future. Ricciardo won't be racing in 2023, but he would be willing to drive Red Bull's F1 car in 2021 if the chance came up. The 33-year-old said, "I think if I had the opportunity, yes, I would take it. To get a feel for the car, of course, but mostly to keep your mind sharp. I'm not a driver who always puts their hand up for a test. I'll be honest with you, testing doesn't really interest me that much, but I know it would help me, especially if I don't race again in 2023. Even if I trained every day, which I won't, even if I did, you're not driving an F1 car, so your body won't go through the G-forces. So I'd say yes to some testing opportunities just to keep my body in shape." As a bonus, Wolff empathizes with Ricciardo's burnout comments. Toto Wolff says that he can understand why Daniel Ricciardo recently said he felt burned out after a tough season in 2022. The Australian didn't have a spot on the grid in 2023 because he and McLaren agreed to end his multi-year contract early because he was having trouble with the team. After that, Ricciardo was linked to a possible reserve driver job at Mercedes. However, he ended up taking this job at Red Bull, making his return to the team in Milton Keynes after leaving at the end of 2018. Wolff, the head of Mercedes, has shed light on the talks the team had with Ricciardo. Wolff said on the Beyond the Grid podcast that Daniel is a great person. "I still think he's a good race car driver. It's hard to figure out what happened in McLaren, but you can't forget how to drive. That is still a puzzle. We talked to him about different options, but we never said, okay, let's really think about going that way." Ricciardo has said that he has been burnout lately. When asked if he ever thought that this could happen to him, Wolff said, "I had no idea he had said that. But yeah, without a doubt. Burnout is a term for a mental health problem like anxiety, depression, or just being emotionally, physically, or mentally drained. That can happen, and of course, it will affect your ability to drive and your professional and personal life." Ricciardo has said that when he has more free time in 2023, he wants to do things like drive across Route 66 in the United States. Wolff doesn't have a bucket list of things he wants to do like this. Instead, he wants to enjoy his day-to-day life. Do you believe Ricciardo's move to Red Bull was the best? Comment below. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And until next time, cheers!